Yes.
There we are.
All right. Okay. Does anyone have announcements? Jerry, you have announcements?
Well, welcome everyone to October, Province 4 and 5 Creation Care Gathering, and anyone else from any other place. Is there anyone here who's not been here before? This is your first time. You would perhaps raise your hand if there's any. Emily, did I see your hand go up?
Mm-hmm.
There we are. If you would just briefly introduce yourself, that would help us. Put you on the spot, but sorry about that.
Okay. Can you hear me? I assume? Yep. Yeah. So you heard me talking to my dog. I'm in Glendale, north of Cincinnati, sort of at the top of the 275 loop, at Christchurch, Glendale, and I'm a co-chair of the Creation Care Working Group, which has been officially recognized by our vestry. We're not a quote unquote commission, which is sort of the height of official status. And we've just begun. We're a year old. We were recognized in February, and I missed the meeting at Proctor. I'm sorry, but I've been meeting to join you, and so here I am.
Yeah.
I'm an old social worker, mother of 3, last one's in college, and have been involved with creation and renewal stuff since late 90s, I guess, officially.
Very good. Well, welcome. Thank
you. Thank you.
Maybe we'll have something helpful for you in our conversations.
I'm sure you will. Yeah.
And Emily, if you could put your email address down,
Sure.
In the chat, that would be helpful. And Heather will make sure she links you to the network or the province network newsletter.
I think I'm already there, but I'll do it.
Are you? Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Anyone else that we wish to have the courage to introduce yourselves? Other than that, announcements wise, let's see, I can just show the usual here. Webinar coming up for the Center for Deep Green Faith with Robin Gottfried, Creation Caring, Spiritual Formation and Renewal of the Church. This is a book he is working on. And so he will be, I don't know, leading conversation about that kind of subject matter on October 23rd. So so I'll just throw that one out. Other announcements, things going on?
The Commission on Creation Care for the Diocese of Wisconsin is going to have Matthew Fox give us a 4-part webinar on the 4 paths of creation spirituality, beginning January 14th through February 4th. We will get news out as soon as we get everything finalized, and we get the Zoom links out. I will send that out to both, Province 4 and 5. And again, invite everybody who would like to join us for those sessions.
That'll be amazing.
Big doings.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. That'll be amazing.
You guys are hanging out with the big dogs.
I know, right?
All right. Jeanette, anything from your side of the roost?
No, nothing going on other than our convention is coming up, and prepping for BPG.
Okay. And all right, let's see. Did I see text? So if someone will monitor, I'm going to be sharing a PowerPoint for at least a few slides anyway. And so I'll have a hard time tracking. So if there's something on the chat, let us know. So
Pam was just letting us
going to
know.
Hawaii, so I don't know. We don't feel sorry for her.
Now we do have to say the last time she was in Hawaii, she was at the island that had the devastating fire and the church was destroyed. So that
Oh,
is that was and that was right after we met all those people in Baltimore that came from that island and that church. Yeah. So that was really, really pretty significant. But we are not going to feel sorry for you, Pam, that you are in Hawaii in the warm during the winter months while we are cold. So that's what I think Jerry was saying.
that is correct. But let us know if some other horrible thing happens.
Mhm.
There and there. All right. So with that, today oh, a hurricane. Yeah, there is that. Hurricanes. Yeah, there's that.
Jerry, I'll watch the chat. You
Uh-huh.
leave, I'll
All right.
watch the chat. You got the
Well,
discussion.
So in September, we had our first annual Episcopal Creation Care Gathering, and we had a couple of keynote speakers that came from the Diocese of Southern Ohio, and they did a couple of presentations on church culture and what it takes to engage and change or fail to change church culture. And several of us on this Zoom were at that conference. What I say we did not get to at that conference, because we needed a whole full another day, really, I think, was that we got the conversation about culture and it was introduced. What we didn't get to really is, what do we actually do with that as creation care people? You know, how do we talk about it? How do we work with it? You know, what's unique about us? And so I want to try a bit of that today. So we don't, we have maybe half an hour, 40 minutes, perhaps, or 50 minutes maybe, to work with this. And that's what I want it to be, is work. So what I think the way to do it is we want to introduce about two things. One is the idea of culture as an iceberg, and how that image can help us. And secondly, a particular change model that they introduced. And let's see if we can't run our own ministries through that change model. So that's where you guys come in, is, we're going to kind of put the question before us: what are the particular ways that we would do it where we are, with what the people we have in the ministry that's in front of us and the challenges that are in front of us? If we were to take this model seriously, what would we actually be doing? Is kind of the question of the hour. And let's see how far along with that we
could you elaborate a little bit on what you speak of there, the iceberg? It's not a term that I've heard, but I'm not really familiar with it. Would you just elaborate on that, please?
I'm about to show a slide to you, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So let's thank you for the segue. Let me get this going and let's do that. So,
Jerry, I think the initial thing she did.
I'm sorry. Hold on a second. This is, I'm sorry, I am sitting outside, which now I think is a mistake because I have that gas-powered blower in the background. So I have a very hard time hearing. George, was that you speaking?
Yeah. I think that initial thing she did of asking us where we were on the continuum would be a good idea.
Hold on a second. I can get a little more volume. Say that. What would be a better idea?
Remember, we first started out, she had the gradations, and then we put where we thought we were. And then she was able to put it on her graph.
Yeah, I don't think we have time. We have time
Yeah.
to do about one thing. And so I'm going to introduce that iceberg idea, but then we're going to go directly to one model and talk about it. And we're not even going to get that done, probably. So putting ourselves, anyways, that's my thought. So let's see. Let's see if that can work. Let me try to figure out a way. Here we go. I gotta make this work. All right. So the iceberg, right? So the idea of the iceberg, I'm sure several of you, if you've been in corporate America at least, have heard of this idea of what culture is like. So this concept of culture as an iceberg was developed by this anthropologist named Edward T. Hall. And what he's saying is, when it comes to the way we behave in organizations, it's like an iceberg. There's what we say and do overtly, and what we're conscious about, and what we will admit to. And all that is kind of like the tip of an iceberg. Most icebergs are 80 to 90% underwater. A tip of an iceberg, that phrase, tip of an iceberg, it refers to that dynamic that as big as an iceberg may seem visually, if you're on the water,
What?
most of it's underwater. You can't see it.
Oh,
Huh?
That line is the water.
There's
And the line is the water. Exactly right. That's the water line on this image. And so there's what he calls the surface culture, which is, it's what we say. It's what we overtly admit to. It's the in a church.
Thank you.
It's maybe the things we would write in a mission statement. It's the things we say to each other about why we're glad we're here. It's maybe the hymns we choose and the style that we with which we do them. That's all what he would call surface culture. What's underneath is deep culture, and deep culture is less spoken overtly, less admitted to, less. And then if it's unconscious, deep culture, we're not even aware of it. We're not, without real hard work and reflection, we're not even aware that, oh, I act this way because I'm an American, because I was raised in the Midwest. That's why I do this, because this is the way this is the way things are done. This is the way things have always been done. And I haven't really even thought about the way things are done. I just do them because it's the way it's always been. That's deep culture. And so, the way we do things around here. You ever heard that phrase in a church? That's the way we do things around here. Which is usually said in contrast to perhaps that's the way things should be done. Or it might be said in contrast to that's the way a Christian would do it, but this is the way we do things around here. Those are some ways you get at the difference between what they call surface culture and deeper underwater culture. And of course, so I can, let's see. So what happens with icebergs when you're in a ship? Think of the Titanic. If you're not aware of the big under the water, you know, it's the way things are around here is a whole lot bigger than you think. The idea that this is the way we do it, and this is why we've always done it this way, what holds that in place oftentimes is a huge mass under the water line. The water line is where people operate mostly. In the chit chat of a given gathering in the church or whatever, in the usual grease and oil that keeps the social stuff running, that stuff is all above water. The argument was, when it comes to resistance to change, most of that's underwater. That's why this is an important thing to talk about. Because we in creation care especially are seeking to be agents of change. So if we want something to change, we're going to have to locate where the real issues are. And so they were saying those real issues are underwater. So this is the stuff that's above water. This is above the water line, the overt culture, the official language that we use. Things like the spoken words and our expressions and our gestures and what's printed in the prayer book, not necessarily what we think it means, it's what it's printed there, is the thing that's above water. Things that are outwardly visible, easy to observe, kind of official, our hymn lyrics, our mission statements, the stuff we're going to write down, you know, the stuff we pray about, and so on, is the language you use. The phrase, you know, one example to me is, I believe in Jesus. Now, people say that, religious people say that with ease. I believe in Jesus. Now, what that actually means to them is a whole different animal. Printing "In God We Trust" on a coin is above the waterline culture. Whether we actually believe in or trust in God, that's a different game. Accepted structures, right? What the carpet, why did we choose the carpet we did? What color is it? Why is the yard looking like it is? You know, what is it we will pay for an altar, to put on an altar? All of those kind of things. We want our church to look a certain way with a certain degree of neatness, and not too much neatness, because sometimes too much neatness is a cultural problem, and so on and so forth. And so the holidays and the rituals and the liturgy and the etiquette and the food and the drink and all of that kind of stuff are sort of artifacts of culture. They're the above the waterline stuff. The below the waterline is things that are not overtly visible, and they are deeply influential. They have real power. And so felt beliefs, not articulated ones necessarily, but felt ones about God or ethics or the nature of the world. Like, oh, I believe in Jesus, but do I believe Jesus? I mean, would I actually want to act in the world the way Jesus asks us to act? Is a whole, because the world doesn't work that way. I actually, you know, my real felt belief is, you can't look like Jesus. You'll get yourself killed. And so that's more below the waterline. In coin is what we perhaps really trust in this culture of ours in the United States. Even though we print "On God We Trust" on our coins, it's actually in coin we trust. So felt beliefs, committed values, respect, hierarchy, family. We use the word family. Whether we think, what really makes the world go around and makes us safe? Is it being the independent individual, or is it the dependence on the collectivism? You know, where's real power reside? Where's real safety reside? And so on and so forth. So habitual thought patterns, right? How do we always solve problems? Is it the same way? Do we always turn to authority figures? Do we always turn to the same methods of communal action, or do we tend to squelch opposition? How do we get things done? Do we depend on tribe? And things like that. Anyway, the established, the unspoken rules about acceptable behavior, not the spoken ones, the unspoken ones. These are all things of culture. So is that making sense to y'all enough for us to move to what we'd call a model? So we can spend a great deal of time, of course, working on that. But I'm sitting here talking because I can't hardly see you all when I have any comment, any of the rest of you guys. I'm doing all the talking. I wasn't the only one at the seminar. So anything before we move to the model of working with this, about this? Is this new? This might be old news to most of you.
Oh, I think I heard that.
I have
all right.
I have my hand up.
Okay.
If you're looking for a comment, I'll make a comment.
Yeah, please do. I can't see.
I know.
I
I
can't
know.
see it. I got you. Go ahead.
Don't worry about it. No, you're outside. I get it. I wish we all were outside. Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to be at the gathering at Proctor in Southern Ohio, and I definitely attended this plenary speech, or I guess it was two different plenaries. I can't remember, two different speeches, but and I like this, and actually what George was talking about, I think, or someone else who the other chart had to do with like setting this new conversation about bringing about change, setting it in the context of how healthy or how sick your congregation was. And I'm not going to go into the details there because I know Jerry said he didn't really want to talk about it too much. But one thing I see similar about that, the kind of circular chart about where your congregation falls on a circle of health or death. And the iceberg graph is they deal with, both of them deal with really, really deep, the iceberg metaphorically in a kind of very real sense, but with very, very deep issues. And they're both helpful, and they're both intelligent, and they're both based obviously on lots of experience and even expert analysis, I'm sure, of researchers who have studied congregations. And I think they are helpful. I would just set them. One thing that I didn't think this while I was listening to them at the gathering, but it's striking me now is that as necessary as this work is, like to analyze the surface and the deeper cultures in a congregation, and also to determine where our culture falls in the life cycle, of congregations, that can be difficult, time-consuming work, and if you and people working with you in your congregation are able to do the work, I'm sure it can pay off in lots of different ways. But sometimes what's striking me thinking about it now is that sometimes we want to bring about change faster. And sometimes we need to bring about change faster, or we think we do, or we want to try. And it just strikes me that we might not have the time to do all of this, in the short, or it's certainly not in the short term, maybe not even in the medium term, or at least maybe we can start thinking about it and it can start to pay off in the medium term, but ultimately it's going to pay off primarily in the long term. That's just because it requires a lot of self-analysis, self-reflection, a lot of dialogue, at least among, a certain number of people in the same congregation. That just takes time. That's what strikes me now that I think about it and look at it more.
Yeah, and Amy, we'll get to you in a second. This is exactly what I hear a lot from creation care people, climate change people. We don't have time. And my question then back to that is, do you think you have a choice? So if you're dealing with an iceberg, if you're wanting to move a group of people to a place of change, do you have a choice of ignoring the mass of the ice that's under the water? Do you think that if you just attack the top of the thing harder, you'll make more progress? Because that is, I think, sometimes exactly where some creation folks are. They just like, I don't have time to deal with all of that, what it takes to really change. I just want to make enough noise to get us off a dime, because my sense is we don't have time. And so I think what you just raised, Edward, is an enormously important question.
All I'm saying is that I think there are issues. In fact, there's an issue that just happened in our church. There are issues and projects that can be gotten off the ground actually without doing all this work. And I'm saying, why not? I mean, it's definitely on a case by case basis, was what I'm talking about. There are other there, and I'm not saying not to do this work. I'm just saying that, and there are certain projects that can probably only get enough buy-in after doing this kind of work. But there might be other things that don't require doing all this work. So why not try them in a shorter time frame? That's all that I'm saying.
Yeah, and we'll get to that model next and ask the very exact question I think you just posed, which is, what kind of change are you wanting? And so if the change you want doesn't actually require all this deep work, as you're saying, why bother with all that deep work? But if the change you want does engage that deep work, then you have no choice. I guess that's what I'm kind of hearing. Amy, I see your hand up.
Do you have time? Well, okay, you've heard all of this, but so to me, this is a reflection of psychology, I would say. Your above the line is your consciousness, and below the line is your unconscious. And your unconscious contains all of your implicit biases. So if you parallel this work to the work that we did with doing hopefully with racial healing, I think you need to explore what's in your unconscious. And so to me, above the waterline is ethics, below the waterline is ethos. So above the waterline, ethics is a prescription or a mandate for morality. And we're all like good liberals. Oh, yes, we're this. But below the water, unconscious means that you're not really aware. You might know that you get like moved by it, or I hate the word trigger, but you get triggered by it, but you don't really know, it's not something that you're aware of. And that's where all your implicit biases are, and that's where the work of, at least with racial healing, an acceptance that you have these implicit biases. If you grew up white and, in Kentucky and the Midwest or whatever. And so that's where I feel that, so ethics is a prescription or a mandate for morality. Ethos is an appeal for morality. It's a change that is unseen, or it's unwritten, unseen, but it's felt and it's heard. And so like from a Harvard Business Review article from 2017 said, culture is like the wind, it's invisible, yet its effect can be seen and felt. When it's blowing in your direction, it makes smooth sailing. When it's blowing against you, everything is more difficult. And if I have time, I have more to say when we talk about resistance, but
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, thanks. And Greg, I don't want to spend, I'm gonna set you up here. I don't want to spend a lot of time this thing we could spend hours on, and I don't want to do that. I want to get to the model. So, and Amy just hit on, I think, our nice lead into the model, which is when the wrong side of this, if you're not working on the mass of this ice, it's going to work against you. So Greg, I didn't mean for you to go away. I was just going to give you that and then and say, so would you want to, you got something you want to say real quick?
Well, I think the difference that we're also talking about is, yes, to help take care of creation for our own survival. We are out of time. We need to take action on it. But I think what we're missing as part of the iceberg is not our own survival, but it is focus. We need to focus on why we are doing it, which is what God has called us to do, and how everything that we do for creation fits within our theology, within our worship, within our spaces. And we're missing that piece. So that's some of that dynamic of above and below the line.
Oh, yeah. All right, let's see how it might fit the model then. So the model is this one. So Gleicher's model for successful change management. C equals D times V times F, which must be greater than R. So, okay, we'll explain that. The D, so this is change, that's the C, equals dissatisfaction times vision times first steps, all three of which must be greater than the resistance. Now, the reason this has to do with culture is resistance oftentimes is cultural. It's underwater. And so that's why the iceberg matters here. So the R factor, you're going to have some savvy about to say, just what is the resistance anyway? Where does it reside? Is it underwater? And so on. So D times dissatisfaction times vision times first steps, they're multipliers. These are not additive. Since they are multiplied and not added, D times V times F, if any one of them are 0, what's your result? If you take any three numbers times each other and any one of them is 0, what's your result? What times 0? What's the answer of anything times 0?
0.
0. So they're saying, this was what struck me. The level of dissatisfaction, the level of vision, and the level of first steps, if you don't have one of the three, if any one of those is 0, you're not getting change. So that's, to me, what makes this really useful. That, because, and this I think speaks, Edward, to your thing. We get in, we feel that sense of urgency and hurry. But according to this model, you cannot shortchange either the level of dissatisfaction, nor the vision, nor those first steps. Because if you do, you get nowhere.
Well,
that's the import of the model. Now, whether that's how true it is, of course, we can work with. But that's what to me was sort of, that raises great questions for ministry.
can I repeat something? I'm not saying not to do the work. I'm just saying we've made a lot of changes in our congregation over the past 5 years. They're kind of on the small side, but they're eco-friendly. They're very green. And someone came up with the idea, and there was virtually no resistance to most of them.
Well,
and no one had thought about them until so they just got implemented. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying not to do this work, this more difficult work. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying do it, but be open to the possibility that there might be some smaller things that you can bring about faster before this work is completed, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, okay. And I'm picking on you, I guess.
Well, like we basically
it's not because of you,
but
because this way.
We banned plastics at our church we basically banned plastics at our church without any opposition.
Well, then you've got a culture there that's different than most.
Yeah, yes, I realize that. And we probably do. We probably do. I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
yeah, no, and because I hear this all the time, and this is why I'm picking on it, I think, is because I do hear this not just from you. I hear it, or even from you. I hear it all the time. We don't have time. In fact, I think I was challenged about this just last week by someone who basically said, tell us what actionable things came from that. And underneath that line is an impatience that says, all of this stuff about prayer and all this stuff about, you know, God or whatever is just a distraction. What we really need is for people just to get off their butts and do things. That is a common response in creation care and church work.
Agreed.
And yeah, and this is, so that's why I'm riding on this, I guess. So in this formula, the C, which equals change, it says 4 factors are needed for change, and they are dissatisfaction with how things are. Now, there's a big question. Whose dissatisfaction are we talking about? So if it's yours, that's one thing. But I think what they want, what the model is demanding, is there needs to be a dissatisfaction in the community that you want to change. It's not your dissatisfaction that's at issue here. It's theirs. And if you can't find their dissatisfaction, then you've got a problem. Vision of what is possible and tangible. So what is a vision in creation care? What are the visions that we put forward? Because a climate crisis is not a vision. A climate crisis is a problem. Solutions to a climate crisis is also actually not a vision. It's a transactional problem solve. What's the vision? And first concrete steps that can be taken. Now, this was an interesting learning for me, is you can have dissatisfaction and vision. If you don't have those first steps, those are very practical. And then it all has to be greater than the resistance. And so that's the diagnosis. What is really standing in our way of people getting it? Isn't that one of the feelings we have all the time? They just don't get it. Why don't they get it? And I think that the answer to that question probably lies in this R factor. What's the resistance to getting it?
Yeah, that's part of deep culture.
Yeah, well, so
Yeah.
so this is now where I'm going to shut up some.
Yeah.
So what in creation care ministry, what do we want and what do we have? When it comes to change and dissatisfaction and vision and steps and the resistance to them, what are we working with here? And what can we work with? What kinds of things would really make this formula work? Is that clear enough question for 10 minutes of conversation or so? Or stories, I guess. Is this enlightening to anything you have experienced? Or descriptive of something you have experienced?
I could make a comment.
Mm-hmm.
It was about 2009. I was on LinkedIn and I asked the question, is Christianity responsible for the destruction of planet Earth? And I was just asking out of curiosity. I wasn't trying to be, combative, but it ended up becoming a huge dialogue that went in directions that I was amazed with. And that's how I got hooked up to the UN. And so when that occurred, there was a lot of resistance. And so so that iceberg underneath the water is, for me, is that there's a huge amount of resistance because people don't want to, they don't want to we say the words, like in our prayers where we say that we are, truly sorry and we humbly repent, except that we don't. Because if we repented, then we would be not afraid of doing what is necessary to live the life that is necessary in order to correct the mess.
Yeah. And how do you actually take, I mean, how do you take Christianity seriously when you live in a culture that is so attuned to consumption?
And so nobody takes us seriously because we, we're the devil. I'm sorry. I mean, it's not us that, it's not us, if this group, and it's definitely not the Episcopalians. That's why I am an Episcopalian, because of what we're doing this very second.
Conversation.
Hey, Jerry.
Yep.
So one thing, this is probably obvious, but one thing that I just learned in my own church with a little bit of, gee, why doesn't the clergy respond? Why don't they get it? Why don't they pick up on all these different things that we've informed them about and things we want to do? But I'm new to this parish that I'm in, maybe 4 years there. And finally, I learned some history, things that went on before I got there. And I think a whole lot of that resistance, a whole lot of that culture, a whole lot of that, that iceberg that's underneath the waterline has to do with history. And I just learned that it's important to tap into that history. So
yeah, just like family dynamics, right? Why do you be who you is? And a lot of the answers is I don't know until maybe I do enough therapy to kind of like, oh, it's this, right?
Yeah.
When I was 5 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But evidently something went on in my church, some number of years ago that split the congregation and people left the church, and it was all because of some things that were said from the pulpit, and now nothing controversial ever dare be said from that pulpit again.
So that would beg an interesting question. So then you go back and say, okay, faced with that reality of that resistance, what change do you want to see? And maybe that change has nothing to do with the response to climate change. Maybe it's simply this church needs to be more trusting.
Yeah.
Well, and if that were to happen, I hear, what, Jerry, I think that if that were to happen, that little bit of change, other things are able to walk in. It's opening a door, right? It's opening a door when they let go of, you've heard that, it's a dam built up and somebody starts chipping away at the dam breaks and all the good things start flooding through. And so that's why it is important to know what is underneath the water. It is important to know, but I like the idea, then again, that's me. I like to just keep going, just doing what God calls, because if you stand back and wait, nothing's getting done. Another thing is we always forget the stuff that has been done, the things that are done. And I really, really liked what Sonia said about trust in the slow work of God. Slow evolutionary process is just the reality of the way the system is set up. So that was from Tilliard. So, that is so true. We, as Christians, we need to be remembering that too. It's in God's time. We're doing the work, but we need to be able to see the work that we have been done, and that needs to be what we need to be showing. I don't know. That was my thought when you were talking about all of that.
So I can tie this into the model you presented, Jerry, which is to say, if the congregation needs trust, and that really is the that's the gap in the congregation at the moment, and that has nothing in itself to do with climate change. It has to do with the congregation and where it has been on its journey. When you increase trust in the congregation, you're actually lowering resistance to change.
Yeah.
So you're not working on the one side of the equation, you're working on the other. And it looks like you're not paying attention to climate change at all, but actually you're making things possible by increasing trust. And yeah, that's a really important thing. And so I come from a corporate context where this model works all the time. Always there are things under the surface. There's things that assumptions that keep large organizations doing things the way they always have. And for us liberals in the Episcopal Church, we have to think about how hard it has been in the Episcopal Church to come to agreement on women's ordination, on the ordination of gays and lesbians, on things like we're struggling with right now, the doctrine of discovery. And it's very easy to say that we repudiate it. It's a lot harder to figure out where it's embedded in our processes and it's a lot harder to remove that assumption about property from our thinking about what we're doing in the world. Right. And when we have assumptions about property, we know we've got to fix the boiler in this building and we've got to replace the roof with slate because that roof has always been slate. We've got all these things that we build up, and it all comes down to this feeling of keeping our possessions.
Yeah.
When all of climate change demands that we release possessions and start to live in the world as citizens of the world, co-equal with the rest of creation. How do we make that change if we can't get at the resistance, if we can't figure out where the resistance is coming from?
So my question to that is, that sounds like in most of the churches that I've been in, that most of the resistance, or I shouldn't even say resistance, but lack of information comes from the pulpit. And don't mean to put any clergy on I don't want to burn anybody at the stake here, but that does seem to be a lot of it. How much of that, if we're fighting with the priest to do the things or say the things and be the person that we need them to be, how can we do that and not fight, that's probably the wrong word, but encourage the congregation to move forward as well, if we're having a hard time getting the clergy to move forward as well. That's a dilemma.
Well, let's slot that in. Jeanette,
okay,
let's slot that in. What change do you seek? You want the clergy to preach, I don't know, a little more climate inclusion or
creation.
Or
Yes,
creation,
care of creation.
creation awareness. Okay, what dissatisfaction can you work with? It can't be yours. It has to be the clergy person's dissatisfaction. So what dissatisfaction might that clergy person have that you can work with? One of them might be, I'm just guessing now, but this is the way the model works. All right. So for one, we have to put down our agendas. This is one of the secrets of this whole thing is we are so used to driving our agenda. What the model demands is that you listen.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that clergy's dissatisfaction? Well, he may be in his preaching leaving behind 20% of the congregation because he doesn't speak very much about the earth. Or maybe it's Tanya, I think that's you. Are you in a car or something?
I'm sorry, it was an airplane. I live near the airport. I thought I was muted, but
that's worse than the blower then.
oh yeah, it's bad. We live right by the airport. But I appreciate this because I was going to have a question about that. What dissatisfaction can we work with? If you could elaborate on that, because since you said it wasn't our dissatisfaction, how do we find this dissatisfaction to work with? So thank.
I have to disagree because the churches I've been in, it's been the people who have been in the church who want to go and like change the altar around. Or I'm thinking of the one in St. Albans where the guy wanted to spend all of the endowment down so that then we would, everybody would give more money. And he wanted to waste the endowment on rearranging the altar. And for me, it hasn't been the clergy. So I'm having a hard time figuring out the answer to the question, because it could have been, but I was just lucky, I think, Jeanette. So yeah, I don't know.
Each congregation is unique. As we examine these very interesting and helpful models, you might say, for change, we have to, they're going to be applied in a different context in every congregation, ultimately.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it is very important. I think we have to ask, if the change we seek is from a certain group, then the dissatisfaction needs to come from them.
And if it doesn't,
so if there is none, it's zero, and you will not get, right?
That's right.
That's
right.
also in the model, right? If
That's
there
right.
is no dissatisfaction, it is a zero, and therefore you're not going to get that change. But so it's a really good listening process to say, where can we find a hunger, right? And so even with your clergy person, surely there's some hunger somewhere that a vision that is offered might address, right? Or Edward, you were saying, well, you're saying it all different. Or who was it? Sonia? Somebody was saying, no, I've lost track. Whichever one it, huh?
Go ahead.
Now I'm trying to think of whatever scenario you can think of. The work here is to listen enough to hear the potential of dissatisfaction. How are we going to frame it? Hunger is a good word. Species loneliness, anxiety, youth and their despair is a felt dissatisfaction. But anyway, so that's the part of them. And then the vision is a picture of that which could be. That's what vision is. It's not just a description of a problem. It must be the describing or the story of that which could be. And so for us creation care folk, I think we have those in our heart, right? We have visions and pictures of what a healed and redemptive and loving and inclusive way of being in the world could look like. But do we go there? How big of a V do we play? How the V card, right? How much of a vision card do we play when we're talking with people? And of course, who's going to care about that vision? That's the biggie too, right? Is a vision that matters to who? And so on. So, and we're out of time, which I knew this was going to happen. And so, right, we could do weekend retreats on this thing, I think, and it would be really helpful conversation to turn us maybe into ministers of listening a little more in our ministries, to get at culture.
I would be up for that.
Yeah, it'd be fun actually. Because it's really hard work, right? We could, you don't get that at one conversation, right? You got to keep coming back.
So I don't know if you all had seen or read in the newsletter that we were going to start holding webinars in the evenings. That's in January. That may start. Notice I said may. It's not in concrete. So this could be part of a conversation that we carry on. I don't think Jerry and I are going to be running that. I think that's going to be Jerusalem and Heather running that. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, this is part of the conversation we can run on, or you can continue these conversations together with each other. Everybody has emails. Do what you need to do. But I think, yes, we knew this was going to run a minute. And I'm glad everybody came in and contributed.
There's all sorts of great stuff in the chat.
Yes,
because I was sharing the screen. But
be sure that you save your chat so that you have your information.
And right. And this may have
Mhm.
been too ambitious to try in a single 40 minutes, but I thought, so I'll just say again what happened at the retreat. So at the retreat, we scheduled what we could, and this was the first time, so we're doing what we could, and what we got done, I think, in two 2-hour plenaries, so 4 hours, right? Or wasn't even that; it was 3 hours, I think. Is basically introduced. What we didn't get done is long, hard conversations about what it might actually look like in our own places. That's just a lot of work. Could have, if we had, let's say, okay, now we've got another 3 hours or 4 hours that we spend together hashing. So anyway, maybe next time we will pull that off, or we'll find another way to pull it off.
Amy, you have
Yeah.
something?
No, just in regards to that comment, we had talked about this, the planning team for next
We
year.
did.
Next year, we're doing another one at Proctor. And I think that for every session like this, we need what Jerry just said, another session of debriefing, of talking it through, hashing it out, because we kind of take that information they give us in these lectures, and then we are like, okay, and then we take it with us maybe. And we did have an opportunity for sitting on the porch at around 10 p.m. with, your favorite drink. And that works out well, except that there may be people that want to share, but they're not wanting to stay up till 10 or drink or whatever. So I think and Jeanette, you're in here, all the planners that are in here, Jerusalem and Heather are not here, but for every session that's like this, controversial maybe, have another couple hours of this kind of thing. I love this. I got more out of this than I did the actual talk. So
So let me tell you, Amy, one of the things, and this is something that we always are concerned about, is after the workshop, people are going to want to talk, and so we always say if we can't make time, we're hoping, and this is why you were encouraged to have conversations at the dinner table and at the breakfast table, and to have conversations in and out, and to talk about these things. So that was strongly encouraged, and we always encourage that. But I think planning team will take that into consideration. We did talk about that at the debrief as well. Was the finding time to have the conversations. But I also like coming together and talking with people who weren't at the weekend, because they can see what it is we're doing. You know what I mean? They can see the work and or hear about the work and be a part of the discussion that they unfortunately had to miss. So I like that too. But good point, Amy.
and as far as topics are concerned, since someone mentioned Tillard de Chardin, to me that's the change in our vision, is to that is the vision that my dissatisfaction, even with the Episcopal Church, not just Christianity, but is that the Matthew Foxes, the Chardin, de Chardin, the Richard Roars, the Anthony DeMello, who was a Jesuit priest that spoke a lot about Buddhism, that I don't know if he got defrocked, but that's where the resistance comes, is this idea that what these people are saying about nature and God gets dismissed as some sort of paganism that's, really what we should be dealing with. And that to me is where the dissatisfaction comes. So I love the Episcopal Church, but I'm also, I'm currently attending the Center for Process Studies, a course every Wednesday night for 6. And it's called Process Thought and Science, and I thought it would be very secular. The first thing they mentioned was Tillard, and they spoke about God and panentheism, not just pantheism, panentheism. I mean, so I get my nourishment there too, which is, I guess, because I feel that the change is not going to be greater than resistance, because I'm just me, and I like going to church.
That is a dissatisfaction. So if we are losing the culture war because of our anthropocentrism or our materialism, if the church could feel that dissatisfaction, then it becomes evangelistic to become more creation inclusive.
Mhm.
Then you're getting into desire for change, and so on, things like that.
I think
And
Gail had her hand up.
No, I'm more than happy to stay quiet. Thank you.
Okay, was it Claudia and
I
Joe?
see it.
Okay, Joe,
I would
was it
just
you?
like to say that about Tejon, just a recent, well, it's a year old or so, documentary that's available. If you haven't seen that, it is really worth pulling it up.
Wait. Can you be more specific so we can find it? What is it?
No, I'm a Luddite with this technology stuff. I really am. But if you look, if you just Google, I know that term. If you just search for it, it'll come up pretty quickly, I think. But
It's a
I think you're looking. Here's a PBS. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
it's
talked over them.
PBS.
Yeah, it's
It is.
PBS.
Lower PBS documentary.
Yeah,
It's from-
that's how to
it's-
do it. Yeah, it's really good.
Okay, go.
It's from May of 2024.
That's pretty recent.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty recent.
All right,
Yeah.
y'all, we are 6 minutes after. I wish we could go. We could actually go an hour easy, but probably shouldn't because we're supposed to put these things on time. So if there's hunger, yes, that's good. Actually, let's if we're dissatisfied with the State of the Union, that's a good thing, right? That's
So should we all watch this film and talk about it next time?
We
that
could
be-
do that. We could do that since I haven't tagged anybody
haven't
for November. That would be an idea too. That's something we could do.
You know,
if
we've
you'd
never
like.
done such a thing where we've actually said, now everyone prepare yourself with X, and we'll
So
talk
things change. So you know that iceberg, Jerry? So
Yeah.
am I feeling some resistance to some
Yeah,
change
we can
there?
never do that. That's just not the
Okay,
way we
so
do things.
maybe we could like push up, have a little bit of a change, and because we're feeding ourselves here, right?
We've never done it that way before. No.
Okay, so
Okay.
how about is everyone, let's do this. We'll take a quick show of hands. Would everyone like to do that? That's a great idea, David. To watch this show, watch this movie, and then come back and we'll talk about it. Raise your hand.
Does anybody have it to drop in the chat as we speak? Did
Oh, there
anybody
we
find
go.
it
Are we
quickly
talking
enough?
about the PBS documentary or what?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'd love to watch it. Yeah.
Yes, and then we'll come back and have a conversation about it in November. That'll be our that will be our, so did somebody put it in the chat?
All right.
Okay.
I don't know if I can find it or not.
David, if you have it, will you put it in the chat, please?
I haven't been able to get it. I will reply to this the email and send it out.
Okay, that would be
It's-
That's a
perfect.
good idea.
It's
That'll
on the
work.
wrong computer. On my iPad, it comes
Find
up in the PBS app, and that doesn't have a link. So
Okay, and then we'll talk about this. What we'll do then is we'll watch it and people can jot notes and maybe we can put them all together before the meeting and we'll have our discussion that way. Does it sound good for November?
Yeah.
All
Well, that
right.
just made your life easier there. You know, Jeanette, that just solved the November. Who cares about that?
Well, I was, I mean,
I would like that, but I'd also be open to continuing this discussion before we got there.
We could.
Either one.
All right.
I mean-
We'll talk about it.
Thank.
yeah, we'll talk about that. I'm glad everybody came. Thank you so much. Be blessed this month.
Thank you.
That article. All right. Blessings, everyone.
Bye.